In part 1, we discussed how his Salaric was found and how Troy as a city grew from a village to a large citadel. We also discussed about Troy 6 and Troy 7a. In this episode, we are going to cover Trojan War and the destruction of Troy. This is the world affair. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Troy 7a existed for a century before getting destroyed around 1180 BC. Herodotus, the famous mathematician, believed the event to have happened in 1184 or 1183 BC. Evidence of fire, a human skeleton with skull injuries, and a small number of bronze arrowheads were found in the city. The dating corresponds to the period of Homer's Trojan War, which may even hint at warfare. There are no Greek documents about Troy from the time. During the Greek Dark Age, between 1200 and 800 BC, writing in Greece disappeared. Therefore, historians could only record the existing oral accounts of the Trojan War that had survived. In the Hittian records, Troy appeared as Vilusa, a name related to the Greek Ilios or Illion, Homer's other name for Troy. Hittite tablets mention them fighting with the people of Ahiyawa over Vilusa. Ahiyawa is the name associated with the Achaea of Homer. Could this have been the Trojan War? There is even mention of a ruler called Alexandru or Alexandros, another name for the Trojan prince Paris in Homer's poem. Despite lacking proof, the records build up a feasible background for a Trojan War in the hostile late Bronze Age world. Yet the archaeological remains still pose problems. While the city's destruction has been attributed to an enemy attack, it is unlikely to have been carried out by a Greek force. By this time, the Mycenaean civilization of Greece was in constant decline. In 1250 BC, Thebes was burned to the ground. Soon Orchomenos and Peloponnesos shared the same fate. By 1190 BC, Mycenae ended as a significant power, and the palace of Pylos was destroyed in 1180 BC. Also at Troy, archaeologists have found ceramics and bronze axes from Southeast Europe, suggesting that they may have moved into the city. These issues leave researchers with a mystery. Who were these people from Southeast Europe? Historians don't have an answer to that. The decline of both the Hattian Empire and Mycenaean Greece happened in the 12th century BC. The primary reason is attributed to the constant attacks by sea people. Who were these sea people? Did they also come from Southeast Europe? Scholars can only speculate. Like all the centers of power of the Mediterranean world, Troy fell into ruin around 1180 BC for reasons that are not entirely understood. Was the Trojan warfare part of a bigger narrative? The former inhabitants of 7a rebuilt the city 7b within the city's former walls. They continued their Anatolian grey-ware pottery style and had some limited foreign contacts, including Greece. However, the second sublayer called 7b2 throws up striking cultural differences. A new knobbed style of pottery, known as buccal ceramic, is seen in these city layers. The Troy 7b2 seems to have been influenced by a recent immigrant population from southeastern Europe. After the destruction of city layer 7b2 around 1000 BC, the city was abandoned. It was reoccupied in the 8th century BC around Homer's time, and the Greeks called it Illion. Not long after this, the Troy became a place of pilgrimage because of its heroic associations. Illion was a small town but was enriched by tourists seeking to pay respects to the past heroes. Greek leaders and Roman emperors endowed it with privileges, including fine civic buildings. The Persian king Xerxes, on his way to conquer Greece, stopped to pay homage to Troy. Alexander the Great also did the same in the 4th century BC, granting it special status within his empire. When Alexander visited Troy, it was a mere village with a cheap temple of Athena. Alexander granted Troy a city status and adjudged it free and exempt from tribute. Special status continued into the period of Roman rule. The Romans believed that the Trojan hero Aeneas was an ancestor of Rome's legendary founders. The city continued to flourish until the end of the ancient world in the 6th century AD. It became larger in size than any time before in history. However, with the beset of the Middle Ages, Troy fell into decline. The city had been reduced to that of a modest farming community by the 13th century. Over time, the city remains decayed to be part of a low hill in a flat landscape that was sparsely populated. Even though the burial mounds created at different Greek and Roman periods were noticeable, the city was lost from view. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, the search for Troy became a significant preoccupation for scholars. The Troad was mapped and explored, and it was believed that a hill called Pinarbasi had been the site of Troy, but no evidence could be found. However, in 1801, a traveler named Edward Clark visited another hill called Hisarlik. Based on the evidence of coins and inscriptions, he identified it as Lyon's site. Only later in the 19th century, it became clear that Hisarlik was also the site of legendary Troy. Frank Calvert lived in the Troad and owned land next to the mound of Hisarlik. When Sclyman visited in 1868, Calvert persuaded him to dig the place. Even though Sclyman had found Troy too, he believed he saw the city of mythical King Priam. There he also discovered silver and gold vessels and jewelry. He named them Priam's treasure and believed the treasure included Helen's jewels. From a scientific perspective, there is a rich history yet to be uncovered that stands quite apart from the myth. Even though the site of Troy has been discovered, the details behind the war are yet to be found. Please let us know how did you find our series on Troy. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe our channel.